professionals. We are impact-driven. We are CFA Society Nigeria, a member society of the CFA Institute Global Network of Societies. Our mission is to promote the highest standard of practice in the Nigerian financial services industry and provide a vibrant community for our members. The CFA Charter signals the holders' commitment to professional excellence. As thought leaders, we collaborate with stakeholders to ensure adherence to ethical standards, better education for professionals, and to build market integrity. We are the leading voice for advocacy in the finance and investment industry in Nigeria. To partner with us or become our member, visit us at cfasocietyn.org for more details. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.
Money Talks.
Money Talks.
Money Talks. Money Talks.
Money Talks with CFA Society Nigeria. Let's talk about money.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much indeed for joining us on Money Talks. Money Talks is a financial literacy program and is brought to you by CFA Society Nigeria. Smart Uzechi is my name, but you can call me Captain Smart. We apologize for coming a little bit behind schedule. It was for some operational reasons. My guest on the program this evening is Erabor Okogun, BSc and MBA. Erabor is a director in deal advisory within major infrastructure advisory practice, KPMG, in Nigeria, with close to 20 years of infrastructure and financial advisory experience across key sectors. He's a project development expert with multifunctional C-level experience and therefore highly skilled in identifying, screening, designing, managing, permitting, financing, setting up projects and programs. He's passionate about the community, mentoring and entrepreneurship, and was the ECOWAS National Consultant for the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, for entrepreneurship development curriculums for African youths. For many years, he was a Faith Foundation facilitator and mentor to entrepreneurs and inventors. Prior to KPMG, he worked as a credit analyst at Nambo/FCMB, Harris Capital, Transcorp PLC as SA to the GMD CEO, and later as the Chief Corporate Development Officer at Signal Alliance. He earned a bachelor's degree from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and an MBA from the University of Leicester in the UK. And let's say welcome, a big one, to our guest on the program this evening, Erabor Okogun. Mr. Okogun, good evening to you and welcome to Money Talks.
A very good evening to you. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks a lot for your patience as well.
You're welcome. We're going to be talking about being an entrepreneur without the yoke of debt. This one is exciting me a whole lot because we're going to learn this evening how you can be a successful entrepreneur without actually piling up debt for yourself. Mr. Okogun, let's go into it very quickly because of our time. And my first question to you here is this particular word, entrepreneur, everywhere you turn. It's like people are just talking about it. It's used in a lot of ways. But can you describe for us briefly this evening what that word actually means?
Yes. I think that inbuilt in our DNA as Nigerians is the entrepreneurship gene. And the entrepreneurship is spirit, right? But when you define it, it's really about taking on opportunities. It's really about balancing risk and reward. But in a normal or ordinary sense, it's really about using your talent, identifying what that talent is, and matching it with the opportunities that you see around you. No matter what that talent is, be it you're very good at trading, be it you're a media person, an artist, but just really to harness that talent in such a way that you're adding value to somebody else's life. That really, in a nutshell, are the different sides of entrepreneurship. Bottom line is discipline. Bottom line is been able to take advantage of opportunities in a way in which you can serve customers, and you can find people who find your service or product as something that they value.
Brilliant. So what strategies then can entrepreneurs employ to start and grow their businesses without really relying on significant debt? Because I saw a particular study by I think BLS that said that about 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of their being open. So what can they do to grow their business without really relying on significant, huge debt?
Well, you're right. Entrepreneurship means eventually setting up a business. And sometimes people confuse adventure with a venture. And when you're venturing, you have to do it by taking calculated risk. And when you venture, you also need to be resilient. If it's an adventure, then you're doing it for emotional reasons. It's fun. It's like a roller coaster ride. And it comes to an end, and you get off the roller coaster. And it's only a memory that you have. Now, for you to be able to grow that business, that venture, and create an institution, a legacy that outlives the statistics that you just quoted, which is actually true. You need to work with experts. Where you can't find experts, you need to have mentors. You need to be able to take on advice. A lot of people don't like taking advice. And therefore, they can't use somebody else's experience as fuel to drive their business forward. The other thing also is not being able to read the market. The market evolves. Our demographics changes. Trends come and go. So you would see someone sees that, Brazilian hair is now popular. They go into it. Who knows? Tomorrow it might be a different type of hair, right? Or in fact, people want to look beautiful in a different way. So when you start a business, you need to have a finger to the pulse. So one is the market, understanding your market. That's external. Internally is to know your strengths and weaknesses. And therefore, where you have your strengths, you maximize that. Where you have your weaknesses, in a very blunt manner, try and mitigate, take advice, bring in partners, cut down what you need to cut down. Doesn't mean that because you're driving a fancy car today, when the business is good and when the business environment is facing a recession, you decide to buy another car so people don't feel that you're not doing well. No, you cut down and adjust because it's a marathon, not a race. So that is really the things that people need to do. Know your strengths, know the weaknesses, understand the market, and where you have a weakness, find every means possible to mitigate it. Take advice, bring in partners, reduce your risk, and understand the market.
I picked out something from what you just said now. Adventure is not the same thing as venture. That's very key. And I hope an entrepreneur has heard that out there this evening. So Erabor, how does the burden of debt then impact the decision making and creative freedom of entrepreneurs, especially in those early stages of the business that we talked about that is very, very sensitive?
Sure. I mean, the early stages are the most fragile. It's like a baby. Business is like almost the same life cycle as a human being. You see an idea as a concept. You start the business, it's a baby trying to work. Some babies need incubators in order to be strong. And you will see that perhaps in the way it happens in the market among the Easterners. You will see that they will learn from a master for a number of years. Then they come out. The master doesn't necessarily give them the debt, gives them goods, some money, and they start a business, right? Where that doesn't exist, you essentially need to structure your business model in a number of ways. One is provide a service or a good that people will pay in advance for it before they get it. So that you use that advance to buy more goods, finish whatever the person has ordered, so that you don't have to borrow money to do the work and get the work done. And in some instances, customers may disappoint you. When you finish the work and you borrow money for this instance, they don't like it, they don't have money, you're stuck with the debt, you're stuck with the product. So one way, two ways. One, I said, is work with somebody who's able, as we've seen in traditional trader system, made popular by traders in Alabama market and others. Work with somebody who makes a commitment that they will train you, they will mentor you, and they will seed you with capital. Second option is to design a product or service that people will pay in advance for. So if you put a good on Jumia, for example, or Konga, you will see that you pay for it first before it comes to you, right? But it means you have to have very good inventory system to be able to go and find that product and deliver it. So that's the second way. The other way is equity, right? A lot of people don't like to share. You have a great business idea, it's starting to grow. Customers are demanding for your product or service. You need to hire workers, you need to get a new office, you need to buy raw materials. Why don't you bring somebody in who will say, I will take the risk with you. Let's do this business, give me 30% of the business, right? And if this 30% is worth XYZ millions, and they put that millions available for you, and it's equity. When you declare dividends, they receive their money. The other way is to form a joint venture. Like I said, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. If your weakness in a particular market space is whatever it is, you can now find somebody who's in that business with you and say, okay, let's collaborate and we can corner more of the market. Maybe I have a good marketing skill. You are very good. You have some cash, right? Maybe someone in your family dashed you money or whatever it is, but maybe he's not really interested in it, but he has a shop next to you, and maybe the person just wants to travel, but he has money. So, okay, come, let's partner together. I will manage your shop with you, and we do a joint venture, and therefore I don't have to borrow. I have resources to do the business. So there are very different ways where you can collaborate, where we can push upfront costs to the customer. But it really comes down to, in my opinion, in Nigeria, around humility and exposure. Once we are humble, once we are open to ideas, then it reduces that tension to go to an unknown entity like a bank, I call it unknown, right? And go and borrow money on terms which could be quite painful for your business, right? So those are ways in which you can start your business, by collaborating, by designing a product where the customer pays upfront, and then that way you reduce your need for debt. Even debt in itself is not a bad idea, but it's early up in the business, it's good to start with equity or partnerships, or having the customer provide the cash upfront to stabilize the business.
Okay, in case you're joining us now, this is Money Talks. Money Talks is brought to you by CFA Society Nigeria. And Erabor Okogun is our guest on the program this evening. And we're discussing here being an entrepreneur without a yoke of debt. In case you want to make inquiries, you want to ask questions, we really have an abridged version. this evening because of our time. But you can send us messages only to 0817 313 6193. 0817 313 6193 in case you have questions or you want to make a contribution. So, Erabor, when people start businesses, especially these small businesses, the aim is to grow the business. And then because they want to grow the business, they need capital to be able to do that. That's ambition. But can you tell us how to balance this ambition of growing the business and also maintaining some kind of a financial sustainability without really accumulating huge debt? Very, very quickly because of our time.
Well, yes, it's a conundrum where you're trying to, take advantage of opportunities, take advantage of the market, and then you're struggling for capital. So I know someone who opened a factory, almost providing a monopolistic product in the market, but he had to bring in some items from China, and he was struggling for capital, even though he had the machines, he had the factory. So it's a real life scenario. I think the best way to do this is very early on, write a business plan. Have someone write a business plan. If that business plan doesn't have to be 120 pages, it can be just the 10 pages, 2 pages for your vision, 2 pages for your market, 2 pages for your org structure, 2 pages for your financial projection that shows the mix of your profit and loss and your balance sheet. So with a business plan, it helps you to anticipate what will happen 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, right? Talk less of the annual budget you need to run at the beginning of your financial year. This helps you to identify the risk, understand the opportunities, know your uses and sources of funds, know how you're going to match your market expansion with the capital that you need, right? So once you have a business plan, everybody or your organization, yourself, 2, 3, 2 staff that work for you, understand it. So even by the time you get to that point where you need that capital, you talk about it ahead of time. You see the signs, right? So you start taking those steps I mentioned around how to go into a venture without debt, or you can still find a situation whereby there's some capital that is available, concessional capital that's available that can support you because you have a business plan and you've kept good books. You've got an accountant to make sure your books are in order, right? So when you need capital and you approach friends, family in the first instance, or even a customer, there's some customers who say, look, we rely so much on you, we can finance your operations because it's a critical component of what we are doing or who we want to be, right? So when you come to them with a good plan, I said, this is how I want to use your money. This is what I say about the market. Here is going to be the returns. Then you're able to plan for that period and you're able to have the material that you need not to be in an emergency situation where you need to grow and be able to source the capital that you need.
Oh, we're really out of time, but Erabor, I want to ask you to just speak to this very last point right here. I want you to share with us examples. I will appreciate if you can do this in just 2 minutes because that's how much time we have left on the program. If you can share some examples of some successful entrepreneurs who built their own ventures without taking on substantial debt, because people think that the moment you have money, you can start a big business. What lessons can others learn from the experiences of those people you're going to highlight right now? Just in 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, I mean, without breaking any confidentiality, I would say I would start with something that is so prevalent now in terms of cards, right? Payment. Now everybody goes to use an ATM, has a card, but there was a business that came together to ensure that as much as possible, when you put a card in an ATM or you load the details online, that a payment happens. So that business didn't really start with much debt. What they did was that they realized, in this one scenario, they realized that their customers, the banks, needed these payment solutions. So they went to the banks and said, you know what, this is what we're doing. Here's our business plan. Here's the team that we put together. They looked at the team. The team was competent, right? And they said, okay, we will put together what you need. We will open up our service and our system, our banking system, and just bring the software and, we integrate. And today, that business, I think, probably has, 1,000 staff and is valued after about 15 years from maybe zero valuation to maybe today about $1 billion. Another one is an agricultural business started by a couple of Indians who were working, I think, with Chelarams. And they went and started getting cola nuts. What they did was they got off-taker agreements. They realized that people needed these cola nuts. They go into Jebu and go to the farmer and say, hey, Mr. Farmer, I'm going to guarantee that I will buy your products at a price. Give me this quantity by Chinese harvest time. They went back to the off-taker and said, oh, off-taker, I have samples of these things and, pay in advance. Your deposits, we will get you your product. And that way, they grew a business that is now quoted, I think, in the Singapore Stock Exchange. And the Harvard Business School was a case study about them. And they grew here in Nigeria. So these are two examples of how they were able to collaborate. One was collaboration. The other was an off-taker strategy, getting customers to pay in advance.
Wow.
So these are businesses that exist in Nigeria, started from Nigeria, and are now, in fact, international businesses.
Wow.
So I will stop there with those two examples.
Yes, very huge.
Others like this, all over Nigeria, entrepreneurs building a business from the ground up and becoming very successful at it, and beating the trends of 20% of businesses fail
within the first 2 years.
Just because of collaboration and working with your suppliers and customers.
All right. Thank you very much, Erabor Okogun. Has been talking to us on the program this evening. He's a director in deal advisory within Major Infrastructure Advisory Practice, KPMG. We've been speaking on being an entrepreneur without the yoke of debt. Thank you very much for your time on the radio this evening. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right.
And that's our time. Join us again next time. Till then, have a good evening.
It's 5 o'clock. 92.3, your number one family radio.